When you think of raw, unstoppable power, few machines command respect like a bulldozer. These iron giants shaped our modern world, carving highways through mountains, leveling forests for cities, and moving Earth on a scale that would have seemed impossible just a century ago. But here's the thing. Some vintage bulldozers were so incredibly powerful, so over-engineered and built like absolute tanks, that even today's modern machines struggle to match their sheer brute force and legendary durability. We're talking about dozers that weighed as much as a small house, pushed loads that would break lesser machines, and kept working decades after they rolled off the assembly line. Today, we're counting down the top 10 most powerful vintage bulldozers ever built. From post-war American muscle to innovative European designs, each one of these beasts earned its place in heavy equipment history. Whether you're a machinery enthusiast, a history buff, or just someone who appreciates incredible engineering, you're in for a treat. Let's dive in. Number 10, Allis-Chalmers HD21. Coming in at number 10 is the Allis-Chalmers HD21, a machine that perfectly represents the golden age of American bulldozer manufacturing. Introduced in 1955, this beast packed a serious punch with its six-cylinder diesel engine, producing 178 horsepower. Now, that might not sound earth-shattering by today's standards, but in the mid-1950s, this was a workhorse that could tackle jobs other dozers simply couldn't handle. The HD21 weighed in at approximately 37,000 pounds and featured a direct-drive power shift transmission that was revolutionary for its time. What made this dozer truly special was its reliability. Farmers, contractors, and mining operations across North America fell in love with the HD21 because it just kept running. Season after season, year after year, this machine proved that Allis-Chalmers understood what professionals needed: dependable power you could count on. The blade width stretched to 14 feet, capable of moving massive amounts of material with each pass. From forest clearing in the Pacific Northwest to land leveling across the Great Plains, the HD21 became a familiar sight on work sites throughout the late 1950s and early 1960s. Operators appreciated its straightforward controls and surprisingly nimble handling for a machine of its size. Even today, you'll occasionally spot a restored HD21 at vintage equipment shows, still capable of pushing dirt and turning heads. It's a testament to Allis-Chalmers' commitment to building machines that would outlast their competition. Number 9, International Harvester TD24. At number 9, we've got the International Harvester TD24, a dozer that emerged in 1947 and immediately set new standards for what crawler tractors could accomplish. This machine was born in the aftermath of World War II, when America was rebuilding its infrastructure and needed serious earth-moving power. International Harvester delivered exactly that. The TD24 featured a six-cylinder diesel engine producing 145 horsepower, paired with a 5-speed transmission that gave operators exceptional control across varying terrain. Weighing approximately 35,000 pounds, this wasn't the biggest dozer of its era, but it compensated with a superior torque characteristics and fuel efficiency that made it economically attractive for contractors working on tight budgets. What really distinguished the TD24 was its innovative track design. International Harvester engineered wider tracks with improved ground pressure distribution, allowing the machine to work effectively in soft or muddy conditions where other dozers would bog down. This made it particularly popular for dam construction projects and agricultural land reclamation throughout the 1950s. The blade could be angled left or right, providing versatility for various grading and ditching applications. From highway construction to strip mining operations, the TD24 proved that International Harvester understood the heavy equipment market just as well as they understood agriculture. Production continued until 1954, and many of these machines logged over 20,000 hours before requiring major overhauls. A remarkable achievement for that era. Number 8, Caterpillar D7. Moving up to number 8, we have the legendary Caterpillar D7, a dozer so successful that Caterpillar kept the model designation alive for over 7 decades. The vintage models we're focusing on here are the early D7s, produced from 1938 through the 1950s, machines that helped win World War II and rebuild the world afterward. The original D7 featured a four-cylinder diesel engine producing around 80 horsepower, which doesn't sound like much until you realize that Cat's engineering wizardry translated every ounce of that power directly into ground-churning torque. By the late 1940s, horsepower had climbed to over 100, and the D7 had become the industry standard against which all other medium-heavy dozers were measured. Operating weight hovered around 23,000 to 28,000 pounds, depending on the specific model and configuration. But here's what made the D7 truly special. It was everywhere. From the jungles of the Pacific Theater during World War II, where military Seabees used them to carve airstrips out of wilderness, to post-war construction projects across Europe and America, the D7 became synonymous with reliable bulldozing power. Farmers used them for land clearing. Contractors depended on them for road building. Mining companies relied on them for stripping overburden. The D7's versatility came from its perfect balance of size, power, and maneuverability. What really set the D7 apart was Caterpillar's legendary build quality and parts availability. When a D7 needed service, you could get parts quickly, which meant less downtime. Operators loved the responsive steering clutches and the straightforward maintenance routines. Even today, vintage D7s command impressive prices at auctions, and fully restored examples are prized possessions for collectors. It's not just nostalgia, it's respect for a machine that literally shaped the modern world. Number 7. Euclid TC12. At number 7, we're spotlighting the Euclid TC12, a bulldozer that showcased American innovation during the infrastructure boom of the 1950s. Euclid, primarily known for their massive haulers and scrapers, applied their heavy-duty engineering philosophy to crawler tractors with impressive results. The TC12 arrived in 1947 with a Detroit diesel 671 engine churning out approximately 165 horsepower. This was serious muscle, packaged in a machine weighing around 38,000 pounds. What made the TC12 particularly interesting was its twin engine option. Yes, you read that right. For extreme applications, Euclid offered a dual-engine configuration that essentially doubled the available power, creating a monster that could handle jobs no single-engine dozer could touch. The standard TC12 featured a power-shift transmission that was advanced for its time, allowing operators to change gears without clutching, a huge advantage during continuous pushing operations. The blade width stretched to nearly 15 feet, and the machine's track gauge provided excellent stability on slopes and uneven ground. Euclid marketed the TC12 primarily to large contractors and mining operations who needed maximum productivity and could afford the premium price tag. From coal mines in Appalachia to large dam construction projects out west, the TC12 earned its reputation as a productivity champion. Operators reported that the machine could maintain pushing power in situations where other dozers would stall or struggle. The Detroit diesel engines, known for their distinctive two-stroke sound and remarkable torque, became the heartbeat of countless construction sites throughout the 1950s. Though Euclid eventually exited the crawler tractor market, the TC12 remains a fascinating example of innovative thinking during America's heavy equipment golden age. Number 6. Allis-Chalmers HD20. Number 6 brings us to the Allis-Chalmers HD20, the heavyweight sibling to the HD21 we discussed earlier. Introduced in the early 1960s, the HD20 represented Allis-Chalmers' answer to growing demand for truly massive earth-moving power. This beast packed a turbocharged six-cylinder diesel engine producing a robust 270 horsepower, channeled through a torque converter and power shift transmission that provided smooth, seamless power delivery. Operating weight climbed to approximately 65,000 pounds. That's over 32 tons of pure pushing force. The HD20 wasn't just bigger, it was engineered for the toughest applications imaginable. What made the HD20 stand out was its advanced hydraulic system, which controlled the massive 17-foot blade with precision despite the enormous forces involved. Whether grading a highway or pushing heavy loads in a quarry, operators found the HD20 surprisingly responsive for such a large machine. The elevated sprocket design reduced track wear and improved maintenance access, a thoughtful touch that contractors appreciated when servicing the massive undercarriage. Allis-Chalmers targeted the HD20 at large-scale projects, interstate highway construction, strip mining operations, and major land development. The machine excelled at production work, where sheer volume of earth moved per hour determined profitability. From the coal fields of Wyoming to highway projects across the Midwest, the HD-20 built a reputation for reliability and muscle. Though Allis-Chalmers eventually left the heavy equipment business, their legacy lives on in machines like the HD-20, dozers that proved American manufacturers could build equipment as tough as any challenge thrown at them. Number 5. Caterpillar D8. Coming in at number 5 is another Caterpillar legend, the D8. First introduced in 1930, the D8 line became synonymous with heavy-duty bulldozing power and remained in production with continuous improvements for decades. The vintage D8s from the 1940s through 1960s represent some of the most capable dozers ever built. Early D8s featured a 6-cylinder diesel engine producing around 130 horsepower. But by the 1950s, horsepower had climbed to over 180, and later models approached 270 horsepower with turbocharging. Operating weights range from approximately 32,000 pounds in early models to over 70,000 pounds in later configurations. This was the dozer that built America's interstate highway system, cleared forests for suburbs, and moved mountains in mining operations coast to coast. What separated the D8 from lesser machines was its incredible durability. Caterpillar engineered every component for extended service life under brutal conditions. The undercarriage components, track links, rollers, sprockets, were manufactured to tolerances that ensured tens of thousands of hours of operation. The powertrain could handle full throttle pushing day after day without failure. And when maintenance was needed, CAT's legendary dealer network ensured parts and service expertise were always available. Operators praised the D8's intuitive controls and excellent visibility from the operator's station. The steering clutches provided precise control despite the machine's size, and the blade hydraulics responded smoothly even under maximum load. Whether ripping rock with a massive rear-mounted ripper shank or pushing through dense timber with a brush-cutting blade, the D8 handled every task with confidence. From construction sites to coal mines, from agricultural land clearing to military applications, the D8 proved itself in literally every environment on Earth. Some vintage D8s logged over 40,000 hours and were still working when newer machines had long since been retired. That's the Caterpillar difference. Engineering that endures. Number 4. International Harvester TD25. At number 4, we're looking at International Harvester's answer to the heavy crawler market, the TD25. Introduced in 1958, this machine represented IH's most ambitious dozer project, combining massive power with innovative features that challenged Caterpillar's dominance. The TD25 featured a turbocharged 6-cylinder diesel engine, producing an impressive 286 horsepower, making it one of the most powerful dozers available when it debuted. Weighing approximately 72,000 pounds, this wasn't a machine for small contractors. It was designed for major earth-moving operations where productivity was measured in thousands of cubic yards per day. The torque converter transmission provided infinitely variable speed control, allowing operators to match engine power precisely to load conditions. What made the TD25 truly innovative was International Harvester's attention to operator comfort and efficiency. The cab provided better visibility and protection than competing machines, and the hydraulic controls responded with precision despite the massive blade capacity. Speaking of that blade, it stretched to 18 feet wide and could push loads that would overwhelm smaller dozers. The elevated final drive design not only increased track life, but also provided superior ground clearance for working in rough terrain. International Harvester marketed the TD25 aggressively to large contractors and mining companies, and the machine proved its worth on massive projects throughout the 1960s and early 1970s. From open-pit copper mines in the Southwest to highway construction projects spanning multiple states, the TD25 demonstrated that IH could compete with anyone in the heavy equipment arena. Though the company eventually exited the construction equipment market, the TD25 remains a high point in their history. A machine that showed what American engineering could achieve when pushed to its limits. Number 3. Caterpillar D9. Breaking into our top 3 at number 3 is the iconic Caterpillar D9, a dozer so legendary that its name has become synonymous with massive earth-moving power. Introduced in 1954, the D9 represented Caterpillar's entry into the super heavy crawler category, and it immediately redefined what dozers could accomplish. Early D9s featured a six-cylinder diesel engine producing around 285 horsepower, but by the 1960s, turbocharging and engineering improvements had pushed power output to over 335 horsepower. Operating weight climbed from approximately 68,000 pounds in early models to over 85,000 pounds in later versions. That's over 42 tons of unstoppable force. The D9 wasn't just powerful, it was engineered to maintain that power under the most extreme conditions imaginable. What truly set the D9 apart was its versatility. With the right attachment, a D9 could push massive loads, rip through bedrock with a massive single-shank ripper, grade slopes with precision, or tear through dense forest like it wasn't even there. The blade capacity was enormous, up to 19 feet wide and capable of pushing 20 cubic yards of material per pass. Caterpillar's power shift transmission allowed operators to maintain momentum even when encountering heavy resistance, a critical advantage in production dozing operations. The D9 became the dozer of choice for major projects worldwide, from the Alaskan pipeline to massive mining operations in Australia, from highway construction across America to military applications in conflict zones. The D9 proved itself in every environment, in every application. Operators loved the machine's predictable behavior and incredible pushing power. Contractors appreciated the productivity numbers that translated directly into profitability, and CAT's support network ensured that D9s could stay working even in the most remote locations on Earth. Vintage D9s remain highly sought after today, with restored examples commanding premium prices. It's not just a machine, it's a piece of industrial history that changed the world. Number 2. Allis-Chalmers HD41. Taking the number 2 spot is the absolutely massive Allis-Chalmers HD41, a dozer that represented the pinnacle of Allis-Chalmers' heavy equipment ambitions. Introduced in 1960, the HD41 was designed to compete directly with Caterpillar's largest machines, and it did so with impressive success. This giant packed a turbocharged V12 diesel engine producing a thundering 524 horsepower. Yes, over 500 horsepower from a vintage dozer. Operating weight exceeded 140,000 pounds, making it one of the heaviest production dozers of its era. The sheer scale of the HD41 was staggering. The blade could stretch to nearly 23 feet wide, and the machine could push loads that would simply overwhelm smaller dozers. This wasn't a machine for ordinary construction work. It was purpose-built for massive earth-moving operations where nothing less than maximum power would suffice. Allis-Chalmers equipped the HD41 with a sophisticated torque converter and power shift transmission that channeled all that engine power smoothly to the tracks. Despite its enormous size, operators reported that the machine handled predictably and responded well to control inputs. The elevated sprocket design provided excellent track life, and the hydraulic system could handle the massive forces involved in moving the giant blade through heavy material. The HD41 found its home in strip mining operations, massive dam construction projects, and large-scale land development. From coal mines in the Powder River Basin to major construction projects across North America, the HD41 proved that Allis-Chalmers could build equipment as capable as anyone in the industry. Though production numbers were relatively limited due to the specialized market, every HD41 that went to work made an impression. Today, surviving examples are extremely rare and highly prized by collectors. The HD41 represents the peak of what was possible in vintage dozer design, a true titan among machines. Number 1, Caterpillar D10. And taking the number 1 spot on our list is the undisputed king of vintage bulldozers, the Caterpillar D10. Introduced in 1907, some might argue the D10 stretches the definition of vintage, but this machine represents the ultimate evolution of mechanical drive dozer technology before electronics took over. And when you see what it could do, you'll understand why it claims the top position. The D10 featured a turbocharged V8 diesel engine producing an earth-shaking 700 horsepower, channeled through Caterpillar's legendary direct drive power shift transmission. Operating weight approached 180,000 pounds. That's 90 tons of pure, unstoppable bulldozing power. The blade width could reach 24 feet, and the machine could push loads that seemed physically impossible for a crawler tractor. This wasn't just the most powerful vintage dozer, it was one of the most powerful production dozers ever built. Period. What made the D10 truly exceptional was how Caterpillar managed to make such an enormous machine controllable and productive. The steering system, despite operating a machine the size of a small house, provided responsive control. The hydraulics could position the massive blade with precision, whether you were rough grading in a mine or finish grading on a major highway project. The elevated sprocket design, massive undercarriage components, and carefully engineered weight distribution meant the D10 could work in conditions that would immobilize lesser machines. From the massive coal operations of Wyoming and Montana to major earth-moving projects worldwide, the D10 set productivity records that stood for decades. Mining companies loved it because one D10 could replace multiple smaller dozers while using less fuel per cubic yard moved. Contractors appreciated the machine's reliability. Cat built the D10 to handle full-throttle operation 24 hours a day, and it delivered. Even maintenance, despite the machine's size, was relatively straightforward thanks to thoughtful design and excellent access to key components. The D10 also introduced innovations that influenced dozer design for years to come. The elevated drive concept improved track life and reduced operating costs. The power shift transmission with torque converter allowed the machine to maintain momentum in ways that traditional gear transmissions couldn't match. And the modular design meant major components could be rebuilt or replaced without requiring complete machine teardown. Caterpillar built the D10 until 1986, when it was replaced by more modern designs. But vintage D10s remained in service for decades afterward. Many are still working today, testament to the incredible durability Caterpillar engineered into every component. When you needed maximum power, maximum productivity, and maximum reliability, nothing could touch the D10. It was and remains the ultimate vintage bulldozer. And there you have it, the top 10 most powerful vintage bulldozers ever built. From the reliable Allis-Chalmers HD21 to the earth-shaking Caterpillar D10, these machines represent the pinnacle of mechanical engineering during the golden age of heavy equipment. Each one pushed boundaries, solved problems, and helped build the modern world we live in today. They're reminders that before computers and electronics took over, engineers created incredible machines through pure mechanical genius and good old-fashioned American know-how. Which one impressed you the most? Do you have experience operating any of these legendary dozers? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from fellow machinery enthusiasts. And if you enjoyed this journey through bulldozer history, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with anyone who appreciates incredible engineering, and subscribe for more deep dives into the machines that shaped our world. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.